The word of the day is actually more of a phrase. It's called the royal we. And buckle up, this is kind of a weird one. The royal we is a very obscure literary term. But now that we're almost at the end of creative writing, that's kind of where we are, right? Is there anything else that can take you to the next level? So I'm not saying you have to use this for any specific project, but this is something to be aware of as a more advanced creative writer. So the royal we is basically when an individual person uses we instead of I. And this is very an old concept because this comes from basically royalty that you can see here. I've got Queen, I think it's Elizabeth, right? Yes, Queen Elizabeth. And she has a we. It's a pun, right? But for some monarchs, a queen or a king, especially in olden times, there was this idea that they basically said, I have been appointed by God. So when I use this majestic plural, I'm not only speaking for myself and my country, but I also am speaking on behalf of God. So in England, they have the Church of England. So the monarch, the king or the queen, is also the head of the church. And that is very traditional, right? That stems from very, very olden kind of days. And so when you hear a monarch say, we have done this, or this is our wish, that means that it's not just them, that this comes from a higher power. So that's a pretty big thing, right? That takes a kind of ego, right? To have that kind of idea. And so there's a couple of different reasons I teach this to creative writing. Number one, if you ever have a king or a queen in a story, then it's something to make your king or queen a little bit more believable, that they might use this idea of the majestic plural or the royal we. But it can also be funny. So on the video today, I don't think it's going to play because of how I do this screencast, but I think you'll be able to hear this audio. This is from Wreck-It Ralph, and even though that's a little kid movie, they decided to use the royal we as an example. So, you know what? I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the audio.
Some routine
I think you can see
tree
the video,
trimming.
though. But basically, he's trimming this tree,
In fact,
and
this whole area is technically
she's
closed
asking
while
him,
we're trimming.
like, what are you
Who's
doing?
Candy
And
tree
he says,
department.
we're just trimming.
Where's everybody else?
And she
Oh,
says,
it's just me today.
why did you say
just not like
we?
the
Where's everybody
royal
else?
we?
Oh, it's just
Yep.
me. Wait, do you mean the royal
right.
we?
Hey, are you
And so it's just a little moment there, but it's just meant to be silly that they're using that idea of like, why are you saying we when it's just you? So they're kind of using this idea of the royal we. But you can also, I've seen it in some other funny situations. So this right here, if you have a character who you're trying to make them come across as super insanely egotistical, maybe have them use the royal we sometimes. As a teacher, sometimes I'll accidentally use the royal we because I'm often trying to represent the class. So like, we're going to do this, right? I also have recently been watching the TV series Alone, where people go and try and survive on their own out in the wilderness. And there was one person who kind of made fun of this idea. They realized that while they were recording themselves, they kept saying, we're going to do this. Instead of like, I'm going to go fishing, we're going to go fishing, or we're going to go and chop wood. And then at one point they're like, why am I saying we? That's weird. Maybe I'm thinking it's because the camera's here, and so it's me and the camera, so we. So that's what I mean. Like, it could just kind of be funny sometimes. So there is a little included article today. This is a very famous "We Are Not Amused." That was an older monarch in England. That was Queen Victoria. But again, this is the idea that they are we, and by that I mean both of us, right? That I'm speaking for more than just me, because this is the divine right of kings. And there was this very famous prime minister. So a prime minister in England is kind of like the president, but it's a little different, right? Because they have a different system of government. So they not only have the monarch, the king or the queen, they also have the prime minister. And Margaret Thatcher, who was a very famous woman prime minister, she kind of overstepped her boundaries, and she was being interviewed. She had just become a grandmother, and on the interview she said, "We have become a grandmother," and the whole country was like, "Oh no, she did! Oh snap!" Because that's really that's something for the king or the queen, not just for the prime minister. So it caused a little bit of an uproar. But Margaret Thatcher was a very powerful, government representative. So it kind of had pushed the boundaries. So anyways, there you go. Royal we.